We head for the Eden Court Theatre in Inverness, now on BBC One Scotland, for highlights of the first day of the Scottish Liberal Democrats' party conference.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Liberal Democrat Conference in Inverness, where the party has been preparing for power, well, a share of it anyway, in the Scottish Parliament. The Lib Dems aren't content to simply be the official opposition. They're hoping to have a say in how Scotland is governed. And today, a new development in policy for Scotland. The Treasury spokesman, Malcolm Bruce, has taken leaf out of Labour's book and called for the party to pledge not to raise taxes in the Scottish Parliament, in its early years at least. This even though the Lib Dems still want a one-penny tax increase in the UK to pay for improved education. Well, not all of his colleagues here supported this fiscal prudence. Conference also heard the Deputy Leader Alan Beath call for PR to clean out the stables of Scottish local government. David Porter reports.
When you tell people that you're Scotland's official opposition and you've got 10 MPs and more than 130 councillors, it comes as a bit of a shock to be stood up.
Hello, everybody, good morning.
Particularly when it's your party that's left you high and dry. Not the most auspicious of starts to a conference, when you've got to delay proceedings because not enough people have turned up.
I will meanwhile go out and about on the highways and byways to try and find the people who are supposed to be interested in cows to come in.
In deference to those who preferred matters bovine to the conference business, proceedings were delayed for half an hour. But once things did get underway, the message was clear. Scotland's new Parliament could bring about a general improvement in politics throughout Britain.
The decision of the Scottish people to restore a Scottish Parliament has opened the door to a modern, cooperative style of politics. While Westminster's Parliament remains a museum of all that is worst in parliamentary practice, time-wasting, name-calling and confrontation, Edinburgh's Parliament can break new ground.
But before that Parliament is elected, the Liberal Democrats need a manifesto. Much of this conference will be concerned with fleshing out policy ahead of next year's elections. The message from the Treasury spokesman, the party means business in every sense of the word.
The Scottish Liberal Democrats are a business-friendly party that wants partnership with you, both to help manage the public services to the maximum efficiency to deliver the best value for money, and to help you create a strong and expanding private sector which will provide the wealth for Scotland's future.
And also a clear shift in policy. The party seems set to go into those elections guaranteeing that it won't raise taxes in the short term.
We should not say to the people of Scotland, vote for us and we'll put up your taxes. We should say to the people of Scotland, vote for us and we promise you that we will endeavour to deliver you quality public services at the minimum possible cost. And only when we are satisfied that we have explored every nook and cranny of the Scottish office block and every way of delivering those services, and that we cannot deliver the quality that you require without putting up taxes, will we do so. We don't start by putting up taxes, we start by delivering you value for money.
But a new Parliament does not mean new ways of funding public expenditure in Scotland.
It's absolutely crucial that we continue to have the existing Block and Barnett formula system in place when this Parliament is established.
Perhaps stung by criticisms in the past of being a tax and spend party, the Liberal Democrats are determined not to leave any unnecessary financial hostages to fortune come May 1999.
Well, I'm joined now by the Liberal Democrat Treasury spokesman, Malcolm Bruce. Malcolm Bruce, you've called for a moratorium on tax raising for the first 2 years of the Scottish Parliament. Why is that?
Well, what I'm saying to the party is that, as this is a new Parliament, we should not start engaging the Scottish electorate on a commitment to raise taxes until we've had a thorough look at the books. And I think we should look at every nook and cranny of a £14.5 billion budget to see if there's ways of delivering the services more efficiently, more cost-effectively, and giving quality services at the same or lower cost. And only if we cannot do that should we consider putting up taxes.
But how could you call for a tax increase of 1 penny in the pound for the United Kingdom and say that Scotland should not have that increase?
Well, for a start, we're talking about an existing Parliament and a situation where the books are open to us, at least to the extent that they ever are. And in that context, we had said time of the election and now, a penny on income tax would be necessary to fulfil our pledges on education. But that's not the same situation as in Scotland, where in any case the government finances are improving, and that should feed through to Scotland, the Barnett formula, and we've not had an opportunity really to investigate the Scottish Office books, because frankly the Scottish Office is one of the least monitored government departments of all, and until we've done that, we should not talk about increasing taxes.
But there's no prospect of you getting the tax increase in the Westminster, so there is a prospect of you getting it in Scotland. So I mean, surely it's really rather artificial to make a distinction between the two. If you want to improve services, health and education in the way you propose, surely you're going to have to raise the money for it.
We make it absolutely clear that we believe in quality public services, and if we cannot deliver our pledges on health and education, of course we would be prepared to raise taxes. But we are in a dynamic situation, and there's two dynamics to that. Firstly, government expenditure is likely to increase because of the war chest that Gordon Brown is building up. And through the Barnett formula, Scotland will get a share of that, and it may be possible to fund services without extra tax. And secondly, we need to look at the books for existing expenditure. And I think it's right for us
that's just what the Labour says as well.
Well, I'm sorry, but we have not had an opportunity to open up the books in Scotland, which a Scottish Parliament has been created to do. And in those circumstances, I think it's very important to say to the Scottish people, look, let's have a proper look at what is being spent, whether there are ways it can be done more imaginatively, whether we can do it more efficiently, whether we can save money, and if we can do that and deliver quality public services, let's do so. If we can't, by all means we'll put up taxes, but you don't start with a commitment to put up taxes before you've had a proper look at
But how can you criticise Labour for instituting council tax increases and cuts in services when you're not prepared to put up the money yourself to prevent the cuts?
Well, we can, but the point I would make to you is that Labour at the moment are presiding over a massive increase in public finances, and our challenge to Labour is start spending the money you're building up now in ways that would give the Scottish Parliament more resources. So it is simply a challenge to Labour in any case to say, give the Scottish Parliament, as well as the United Kingdom Parliament, the resources it needs to fund those public services, and we, on the other hand, will undertake to use our influence in the Scottish Parliament to ensure that the money is spent efficiently and wisely. And I think people will regard that as an honest contract rather than a tax and spend promise.
Well, as you know, some of your colleagues here in Inverness disagree. Is your proposal for a moratorium on tax, is that party policy?
No, of course it's not. We're a party that is debating how we're going to approach a Scottish election next year, and we're meeting in a conference to discuss what our priorities should be. But I can say at the fringe meetings I've taken part in, there's been a great deal of support for demonstrating that we're a radical party that's prepared to look at every aspect of Scottish policy and Scottish expenditure without any preconditions, and that this is a good way of demonstrating to the Scottish electorate that we mean business.
Well, Mr Bruce's call for a tax freeze had a mixed response here in Inverness. I discussed the proposal with three prominent Liberal Democrats. I first asked Councillor Jamie Stone, the candidate for Caithness and Sutherland, if he thought a tartan tax moratorium was a good idea.
I think it's a good idea because we have to look at the books. We've got to go in there and see what's happening to 14.5 billion. Once we've had a good look, remember this, we are committed to improving services. And as a councillor, I know better than many people just how bad we're being hit in the Highlands. We're facing a raft of school closures, roads falling apart and so on. So if there's no money there, and if we can't do it, then I would think that we will have it in our back pocket as a policy.
So given that, Stephen Gallagher, is it realistic to try to have a moratorium on using the tartan tax?
I think, first of all, Malcolm's caution, and it's a welcome interjection to the debate on taxation. Malcolm's caution is probably due to his discovery, which he's made known, of Labour's war chest, which we expect to be accumulating during the first 2 years of this government. We do
you don't
not
have the
know,
keys for that war chest,
We
though,
do not have the keys, and we in fact do not know what money the Labour Party may well put into local government or local services prior to the Scottish election and next year's budget. So I think Malcolm's right to be cautious, because clearly we do not want to commit to expenditure which may be at that point unnecessary, and in fact we can only spend this additional income once, and we want to be absolutely sure that we get the right priorities and at the right time.
But Eileen McCartan, is it right to rule out using the tax-raising powers of the Scottish Parliament, given that there will be so many demands on the cash available?
I think if a party is going into government, I think that it would be highly stupid not to look at the funds, first of all, that are in the budget.
That's not quite the issue. It's whether or not you actually rule out using the tax before the
I mean,
elections?
you would have to rule it out insofar as you would not go straight in and say we are going to raise the tax. You have to look at the books first of all, to put it in very plain language. Having looked at the books, if the money is not there, we are committed to a great number of services, and if, as Stephen says, the money is there in the war chest, then we would use that. If the money is not there, then we raise the taxes. And so therefore, I mean, it is prudent to say we wouldn't go straight in and raise the taxes, but you cannot say we will go straight in and not use the taxes.
Well, how long then, Jamie? Do you think it should be for 1 year, 2 years, or for the lifetime of the Parliament?
Well, I like the idea of taking something a little bit more forward-looking than a year-on-year accounting method, which we go in for in councils and Parliament tends to do as well. But I should think that probably by year 2 you begin to get a feel on it. And it's not only the question of looking at what's being spent already and how it's going. There's another issue too, coming from the Highlands, is that we're seeing that the more marginal parts of Scotland are getting somewhat stuffed, should we say, by the central belt. And I think that's a little debate we'll have to have on that front to see how it is. Now, there again, the power still remains there, and if we have to, then we'll take it.
Well, Stephen Gallagher, if you do rule out using the tax powers for the first 2 years, how are you going to respond to people who say, well, you can't criticise Labour for carrying out these cuts in services and for putting up council tax if you're not prepared to commit the money?
Well, I have to say that, first of all, we do have to see the books, and it would be utterly imprudent of us to propose a tax rise without seeing the state of the economy, which we would inherit in Scotland. But be in no doubt, where Labour says education, 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 and cuts, 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 if education requires funding, we will fund, fund, fund.
Now, there may not have been a huge turnout of Liberal Democrat activists today, it's Friday after all, but there's been no shortage of lobbyists and representatives from business and other organisations. The party says it's had more visitors this year than ever. They've been drawn by forecasts that the Lib Dems will do well in the Scottish parliamentary elections in just over a year's time. But some fear that under proportional representation, the party could lose out. Here's Kirsten Campbell.
The Scottish Lib Dems conference has certainly been successful in wooing the attentions of the media. There's no shortage of journalists here, but while interest levels may peak in the conference hall itself, the fringe events too will be captured on film. This is their biggest conference in years, with not only an increase in the number of delegates, but also in the number of stallholders.
We're becoming increasingly aware that many of our clients are themselves active members of the Liberal Democrats. So it's logical that we should test out the waters, so to speak, and see what sort of reception we get at their conference.
The party is keen to promote itself as Scotland's official opposition, but this is its last conference before elections to a Scottish Parliament, where it could hold the balance of power, and that has made it much more attractive to lobbyists.
That's one of the reasons that, we really feel that we have to be here, because the Scottish Parliament will play an important part for us and for the workers within the industry.
We're an apolitical organisation, and as such we will go to all the political party conferences in Scotland, and we get a very good response from all the people who are there. They don't often agree with everything that we have to say, but that's part of the process of trying to get your message over and having a discussion with them and seeing what they think about that.
Although perhaps in the past we wouldn't have brought a stand to a Scottish party conference, I would certainly have come along and spoken to people. But this year we thought it was quite important to make sure that people knew that we were here, because we're the voice of nursing in Scotland, and we want to make sure that people see us where they're standing around talking and where they're debating the very important things about Scotland's future.
The Lib Dems must also look to the future. They've enticed some of the main players in Scottish society to their conference stalls on the strength of their general election support. If voting in the Scottish parliamentary elections went the same way, they'd have 16 MSPs, 11 from constituencies and 5 from the regional lists. But even as they tried to attract business leaders today, the party was very aware that it must also attract voters. Its strengths are in rural areas, and ironically for a party that has long supported proportional representation, if it doesn't improve its position in the polls, it could lose out.
I think the PR system will help us in that, as the electorate have 2 votes. The second vote, which is a list vote, they can vote positively. At long last, they can actually vote for a party that they want to win. One of our obstacles in the past has been people saying to us, well, we like what you stand for, we like your candidates, we would vote for you if we thought you could win. Well, our message is we can win now under PR, and you can vote for us in complete confidence.
The party then is in confident mood, but it must remember that campaigners who've set up stalls here, some for the first time, also have an ulterior motive.
I think it's absolutely essential for any campaign group that wants to actually have an effect on the law to become involved in the decision-making process. So without coming to the conference, you're not even on the map.
Well, obviously it's a lobbying situation. It's a good opportunity. And I have to say that it's cheaper to come to the Liberal conference than it is to go to the Labour conference by a factor of about 5.
But even at bargain prices, the sale of stall space has boosted the party's coffers by £18,000. That money will no doubt go on persuading voters in more urban areas that these lobbyists haven't been wasting their time.
But before they can win any seats, they have to select their candidates. So far, the Liberal Democrats have selected 12, only 2 of whom are women. Tomorrow, the party faces a challenge from some women who want to abandon the long-standing commitment of the Scottish Liberal Democrats to equal representation for women in the candidates list.
I hope the whole thing will be run by the best people who most want to do the job. And as society changes, I think increasingly women will come forward. I speak as a member of a political group on a council which is a majority of women. We are 60-40 women to men. Women will come forward if they see something they want to do.
But what you're saying is that you shouldn't railroad women into standing, but you shouldn't railroad men out of the picture either.
Absolutely, and with this railroading, some very able women in our party are going to be put off. And I think women already see politics as a fairly dirty business. Personally, this great artificial manipulation and this bouncing is getting me to the stage where I'm questioning whether I want to be a member of this party.
With me now is Willie Rennie, the Chief Executive of the Scottish Liberal Democrats. Willie Rennie, there's a lot of controversy here in Inverness about whether and how to achieve equal representation for women. What's the settled view of the Liberal Democrats?
I don't think the settled view in Dunfermline was that we took affirmative action to solve the problem of there being too many men in the new Scottish Parliamentary Party. The Labour Party have messed up on this, and we now feel that the members of the conference should have a choice to re-debate the issue and come up with a new practical method for actually delivering this.
So do you think they should intervene in the party lists to put women at the tops of the lists in the regional balance?
That's the route that we've always suggested, that we actually rebalance the first-past-the-post selections with the list selections.
Your predecessor, Andy Miles, was saying that would be undemocratic. You should leave it to natural democratic processes for selecting women.
Yeah, I've not heard what Andy said, but the crucial thing is that we actually deliver the new Scottish Parliamentary Party that's representative of the people of Scotland, with a good, fair representation of women. And I think Andy has believed that in the past. I'm not sure if he's changed his mind.
Is equal representation legally possible?
We don't know. I mean, that's the thing we hope the government would solve by actually making the Sex Discrimination Act exempt from Scotland Bill. But they've failed to do that. They've actually bottled out of the decision and left it for political parties to solve.
So all bets are off?
Yeah, we just don't know how it's going to go. We think it's important for the members of the conference to have a choice in tomorrow's debate. And so it's important that they have their say.
Well, looking ahead to the other side of that selection and the elections for the Scottish Parliament, how many Liberal Democrat MPs are you aiming for?
Well, the sky's the limit. As Paddy says, there's no glass ceilings with the Liberal Democrats. We're aiming to get as many as we can as a strong force in the Parliament. I mean, the chances are, in the last general election result, we would have had 11 MPs, MSPs, and 5 additional members. So that'd be 16. Now, if we got a 6% swing, we would achieve another 7 members. So that would be in the region of 23. Now, you can get a bit of variety off that, and you probably end up with maybe 25.
Of course, your problem is very much local Liberal Democrat loyalties. You've got a lot of very strong personal votes for your MPs. Are you satisfied? Are you happy, or do you expect that these loyalties will transfer into this very complicated system of additional members?
I mean, Ian, you'll have seen the list of people who we've chosen for our first-past-the-post seats. I mean, they're very high-calibre people new to the party who have actually got a lot to give to Scottish politics.
But do people know them in Scotland?
Well, we'll soon find out, and we'll make sure. That's why we've started early in our selection process, so we can get people to know them.
Slightly inauspicious start, perhaps. Very poor attendance at the conference today. Are you disappointed?
I mean, Friday has always been a sort of a cool day for the conference. Saturday is always the real buzzing day, so tomorrow I expect a real buzz.
Party conferences are always a time to catch up with familiar faces. At this conference, 1 or 2 well-kent personalities are missing, the party leader, for example, but 2 high-profile Scottish politicians have put in an appearance. The difference is that the last conference Arthur and Susan Bell went to was the Tory one. So what's the day been like for the defectors? Craig Anderson's been finding out.
It was a case of a walk on the wild side today for Arthur and Susan Bell as they arrived for their first ever Liberal Democrat conference. Their highly publicised and frankly bitter split with the Tories might at the time have been seen as the political equivalent of Harry Kiri. But their reception in Inverness, they say, has been warm and welcoming, a far cry from Tory gatherings as the Bells increasingly began to find themselves adrift from Conservative thinking.
I find welcome and friendliness. I find people are interested to know why we have joined this party, which particular policies that we have brought us on board. I have to say, incidentally, that the ship I was on was not going the opposite way. It was like the Titanic. It was going down and it sank.
So are the Liberal Democrats now happy to be seen as the party of the turncoat?
I wouldn't myself describe us as the party of the turncoat. I think that would be wrong. But I think that we stand for a political approach, which is, to use Mr. Blair's buzzword, inclusive. We were there a long time before he discovered it. And that does mean that you want to work with people of other political persuasions. And in working with us, if they then discover that, in fact, what we stand for is more akin to what they want to advance, it's great to have them coming on board.
Of course, like any party conference, there's the dizzying round of receptions in which delegates do that vital networking thing, filling their heads with new ideas and their mouths with canapés and Chardonnay. But here, apparently, there's proper debate and little stage management.
There's a huge programme in each of the debates laid out very clearly the objectives, and they're also laying out some of the conflicts that arise in trying to achieve a better circumstance, a better political outcome. The conflicts are there as well, and they cannot be denied.
Sometimes I try, but it's quite difficult to stage manage a Liberal Democrat conference because we are Liberal Democrats, and that means that we have a lot of strong-minded people who have very set ideas about how they want things to do, and they need to be persuaded and convinced of the arguments. They won't be railroaded.
Which is exactly why the Bells waved cheerio to their erstwhile Tory colleagues. Now, with their strong links with Scotland's corporate community, the couple are trying to promote their new party as the friend of business and the free market, especially with the Scottish Parliament on the horizon.
With, quite frankly, the Tories very unlikely to have much representation, if any, within that Parliament, the Liberal Democrats actually stand to be in a position to pick up a lot of business votes and to be able to put forward that case within the Scottish Parliament.
The new kids may have been round the block already, but they are finding a platform here. But whether their acceptance into the Lib Dem fold will find them on the party's list of potential members of the Scottish Parliament, well, that might be stretching the welcome just a bit too far.
Well, the Bells were here, but Paddy Ashdown wasn't. The Liberal Democrat leader was away in Bosnian affairs. His place was taken by the Deputy Leader, Alan Beath. We asked some of the representatives here in the Eden Courts Theatre if they were disappointed that their leader hadn't made it.
I know he's got a lot of commitments on, and this may be a difficult time for him, but I think in the lead up to the Scottish Parliament, it would have been nice to have him here.
I don't personally expect national leaders to attend every conference. We are, after all, a devolved Scottish conference. We're perfectly capable of running a conference. It's delightful to have him, but no, I don't have any great hang-up about it at all.
It's slightly disappointed, but I think Alan Beath's a good deputy leader, and pleased enough to have him here for the day.
I think some of us are very disappointed that Paddy's not here, but we accept and realise the fact that he is a very busy man.
Yeah, I can assure you that Paddy will be up many times before we get to the elections for the Scottish Parliament, and the Scottish people I know do like to see him here. But on this particular occasion he had a very important task to carry out, and I think everybody understands that he has to do it.
Yeah, I'm delighted. First of all, he's got a job to do in Bosnia, and secondly, I get the slot to make the major speech, so I'm very pleased.
Well, a delighted Alan Beath there. And I'm joined now by our political correspondent Kenny McIntyre and by Peter McMahon, the political editor of The Scotsman, to assess the day we've just had. Kenny, was Alan Beath really a bit of a second rate?
Well, I think he was. I think because of the fact that Mr. Ashton was posted missing, which I think annoyed a lot of activists. I think it wasn't a great speech, a very short one, 13, 14 minutes. I didn't think there was much pattern to it. And it contained, I think, the most interesting and puzzling kind of line of the day in many ways. He said what the people of Scotland wanted was a free Scotland. And then he kind of sauntered off into something else.
Scotland free in 1993.
Well, yes, I was trying to think of a slogan, but perhaps Peter's got one he could apply to it.
Well, Peter, it was a fairly poor attendance today, and the debates were rather limp. What kind of state do you think the Liberal Democrats are in today's showing?
I think they must be worried, because you would have thought that in the run-up to the Scottish Parliament, they think they're going to be power brokers. And yet, for the first debates of a major conference where they're going to set out their stall to the Scottish people, not very many people were here. Of those people that were here, there were more people in the coffee bars and in the bars than there actually were in the debates. So,
often happens on the first day, to be fair.
It does often happen on the first day, and I suppose you've got to tell the conference by the entire length of the conference and what happens in the end. But even so, it hasn't looked good for them anyway.
Well, Kenny, the day was enlivened by Malcolm Bruce and his proposal that there should be a moratorium on tax-raising powers for the Scottish Parliament. A lot of his colleagues disagree. Is there a serious division here, do you think?
I think there is. I think potentially this is going to be difficult for them, because, I mean, Mr. Bruce was doing interviews suggesting that this would happen. Now, they've got a long way to go before they finalise policy. I think it also puts them a bit at odds with the party nationally, which still remains committed to putting a penny on income tax to pay for education. This was what made, in many ways, the Liberal Democrats different within the Scottish Parliament, and I think it's potentially troublesome for them.
Well, it's going to put them in a rather odd situation, isn't it, Peter? Because here they're saying, well, we'll raise taxes in the United Kingdom, but we're not going to raise taxes in Scotland. Scotland is being left out.
Yes, well, people are going to draw the obvious comparisons. Why is your policy different in Scotland to Scotland? And the question that will be asked by the other parties will be, if Scotland schools, are they any different from schools south of the border? Why don't Scotland schools need extra money? And what the Liberal Democrats say is that this is a new parliament, £14 billion to spend. You should look at the way that money is allocated before you allocate the tax. And I suppose that is a reasonable argument.
Well, let's look ahead to tomorrow now, Kenny, and there's this other vexatious issue of gender balance, how to achieve equal representation for women among the candidates. Now, it seems to be causing quite a lot of controversy at the moment. Do you think the leadership is clear where it's going?
No, I think they're not clear where they're going. I think they're trying to be quite cunning, trying to shift all of the blame onto Labour. They're saying that Labour have let the people of Scotland down, gone back in earlier agreements, by saying that they can't put in a rider to the Sex Discrimination Act, which would allow the political parties to be exempted from its strictures. But I think the reality is that Liberal Democrats themselves don't know how to try to achieve this. And I think they can have a potentially difficult debate on this tomorrow.
Labour's having problems about this as well, isn't it, Peter? Is gender balance really possible?
It would be possible if people wanted it to be. I actually think this is probably more divisive in terms of Liberal Democrats than it is amongst the Labour Party. Labour seem to be happy that there's some mechanism, but here in the conference there's a real deep feeling against this. Even many women councillors from councils all over Scotland who are examples of women who have got on in politics are against this because they believe it's illiberal. They believe you shouldn't have mechanisms that enforce gender balance, that people should be selected on merit. And if you talk to people around here in the conference, this is the thing more than I think than tax that is dividing the party.
Well, that's all from the Scottish Liberal Democrat Conference in Inverness for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night with our usual Scottish lobby programme at 7:15 on BBC Two Scotland. You can also see coverage of the speech from the Scottish Liberal Democrat leader Jim Wallace at 3:20 tomorrow, also on BBC Two Scotland. So from me and all the team here in Inverness, have a very good evening.